The year was 2347, and humanity had been part of the Galactic Council for 80 years. In all that time, humans were never treated as equals. They were tolerated like unwanted guests at a party. The older species looked at them with cold eyes and spoke to them with empty smiles. Earth had one small diplomatic station on a neutral world called Helix Prime, and that was all the galaxy allowed them. Una was 34 years old. She had kind eyes and a warm smile that made people trust her. She worked as a humanitarian aid worker, helping refugees who had lost their homes in small wars across the galaxy. She believed that kindness could change things. She believed that if humans showed the galaxy their good hearts, the galaxy would eventually accept them. Her younger brother Taiho thought she was foolish. He was a pilot in Earth's small defensive fleet, and he had seen how alien species treated humans when no one was watching. He had seen the insults, the dismissals, the quiet cruelty. But he loved his sister, and he respected her hope even if he could not share it. On the day, everything changed. Una was delivering medical supplies to a refugee camp on Helix Prime. A resource dispute had erupted on a border colony, and thousands of families had fled their homes. Una moved through the camp with boxes of medicine, speaking softly to frightened children and tired parents. She did not care what species they were. Pain was pain. Fear was fear. She helped anyone who needed help. The Velan Dominion was the most powerful member of the Galactic Council. Their High Speaker, a tall creature named Vorath, had ruled for 200 years. He had gray skin, 4 arms, and eyes that showed no warmth. To him, humans were insects that had somehow learned to build starships. He hated that they were allowed in the council at all. He wanted to remind them of their place. Vorath ordered his soldiers to Helix Prime. He told them to find a human and make an example. He wanted the galaxy to see what happened to species that forgot they were nothing. The soldiers found Una in the refugee camp. She was holding a sick child, giving it medicine when they surrounded her. She looked up at them with confusion, not fear. She did not understand what was happening. They broadcast everything on the galactic network. Billions of beings across thousands of worlds watched as the soldiers grabbed Una and forced her to her knees. She raised her hands in peace. She spoke calmly, asking what she had done wrong. She said she was only helping people. The Velan commander called her a spy. He said she was gathering information for a human invasion. It was a lie, and everyone watching knew it was a lie. But the truth did not matter. Power mattered. Una looked into the camera. Her eyes were steady. She did not beg. She did not cry. She said only 4 words. "Tell my brother goodbye." Then they killed her. The footage reached Earth within hours. It spread across every screen, every device, every home. People stopped in the streets to watch. Families gathered around their screens in silence. The whole planet saw a young woman with kind eyes murdered for no reason at all. Taiho was on patrol when he received the message. He watched the footage alone in his cockpit, floating in the darkness of space. He watched his sister raise her hands in peace. He watched her fall. He played it again and again, unable to believe it was real. When he finally stopped the video, something inside him had changed. The brother who had argued with Una about hope and kindness was gone. In his place was something harder, colder, and filled with a quiet rage that would never fade. Ambassador Jiwoo was an old man. He had served as Earth's diplomat for 40 years. He had spent his life smiling at insults and swallowing his pride. He had believed that patience would eventually earn humanity's place at the table. Now he stood before the Galactic Council and demanded justice. His voice was calm but firm. He presented the evidence. He showed the footage. He asked for the soldiers to be punished and for the Velan Dominion to apologize. He reminded the council that Yuna was a civilian, a healer, someone who had harmed no one. High Speaker Vorath laughed. The sound echoed through the council chamber, and other representatives joined him. They laughed at the old human and his demands. They laughed at the idea that killing a human required any response at all. Vorath spoke with contempt. He called Yuna's death an internal security matter. He said the council had no authority over how the Dominion handled spies. He told Ambassador Jiwoo to return to Earth and teach his species to know their place. Jiwoo stood in silence for a long moment. The laughter continued around him. Then he nodded once, turned, and walked out of the chamber without another word. The galaxy expected Earth to submit. They expected angry messages that would fade into nothing. They expected humans to complain for a while and then accept their powerlessness. That was how weak species behaved. That was how things had always worked. But Earth did something unexpected. Earth went silent. No more diplomatic messages. No more trade negotiations. No more requests for meetings. The human stations across the galaxy went dark. Ships returned home. Communications stopped. For 3 days, Earth said nothing. The council was confused at first, then amused. They joked that humans were sulking like children. They said Earth would come crawling back soon, begging to be let into the galaxy again. They returned to their business and forgot about the dead woman. On the 4th day, a single message came from Earth. It was addressed to the entire galaxy, broadcast on every frequency. The message was simple. You had a choice. You chose wrong. Then silence again. Deep beneath Earth's surface, in bunkers that had been built in secret over decades, lights began to turn on. Machines that had never been activated began to hum. Men and women who had trained for a day they hoped would never come received their orders. President Hyman, a woman with gray hair and steel in her voice, stood before the unified leaders of Earth. For the first time in human history, every nation had agreed to act as one. There were no arguments, no debates, no politics. There was only cold agreement. Hyman spoke to them all. Her words were simple. Her meaning was clear. They killed one of our children. They laughed when we asked for justice. They think we are weak because we wanted peace. We will teach them what humanity becomes when peace is no longer an option. In the refugee camp on Helix Prime, someone had placed flowers where a unit died. The blood had been cleaned away, but people remembered. They whispered about the human woman who had helped them even when her own people were hated. They wondered what would happen next. They would not have to wonder for long. Taiho returned to Earth. He walked into a recruitment center and spoke 3 words. I volunteer. Everything. He was not alone. Across the planet, millions of others did the same. They were soldiers and scientists, builders and pilots, teachers and farmers. They came from every country and every background. They had one thing in common. They had seen the footage. They had watched Yuna die. And they would never forget. The galaxy had made a terrible mistake. They had killed one human and thought it would mean nothing. They were about to learn what humans did when their family was murdered. Earth was done talking. Earth was done hoping. Earth was done being patient. Earth had chosen war. 3 months had passed as Yuna died. The galaxy had already forgotten her name. To them, she was just another dead human, unimportant and unmourned. The council continued its business. Trade ships flew between worlds. Diplomats argued about borders and resources. Everything was normal. But on Earth, nothing was normal anymore. General Ilnji stood in an underground command center 50 meters below the surface of Korea. She was 52 years old, with short gray hair and eyes that had seen too much. She never smiled. She never raised her voice. She simply gave orders, and people obeyed because they knew she was always right. Around her, Hundreds of officers worked at screens and holographic displays. They tracked ship movements, factory outputs, training schedules. The room hummed with quiet activity. This was the heart of Protocol Endurance, a secret plan that had been created 50 years ago and never activated until now. The plan was simple: make the galaxy believe Earth was weak while secretly building the power to destroy anyone who threatened humanity. For decades, Earth had hidden its best technology. They had built weapons and ships in underground facilities. They had trained soldiers for a war they hoped would never come. Now that hope was gone. Yoonji watched a display showing Earth's hidden fleet. 2,000 warships that the galaxy did not know existed. They were faster, stronger, and more deadly than anything the Council had ever seen. And every day, more ships joined them. Taiho stood before her. He wore the uniform of the Vengeance Fleet, a special strike force made up of volunteers who had lost someone to alien cruelty. Every member had a story. Every member had a reason to fight. Taiho's reason had a name: Yuna. "You understand what this fleet is for," Yoonji said. It was not a question. "We go where the regular fleet cannot," Taiho replied. "We do what needs to be done. You may not survive." "I know." Yoonji studied him for a long moment. She saw the rage in his eyes, but also the control. He was not crazy with grief. He was focused, sharp, dangerous. That was good. Crazy soldiers made mistakes. Focused soldiers won wars. "Your sister was a good person," Yoonji said finally. "She wanted peace. What would she think of what you are becoming?" Taiho did not look away. She would understand. She always understood what people needed, even when she wished they needed something else. Yoonji nodded. "Report to Training Facility 7. You leave for advanced combat exercises in the morning." On the other side of the planet, Dr. Sunho worked in a laboratory that officially did not exist. He was 60 years old, thin, with wild hair and glasses that were always dirty. He had spent his life studying physics, searching for truths hidden in the fabric of space itself. Now, he was building weapons. The Cascade Drive sat before him, a machine the size of a small room. It glowed with soft blue light. When activated, it could move a ship faster than anything in the galaxy. The Velen's best engines could travel 100 light years in a day. The Cascade Drive could travel 500. But the drive was not what worried Sunho. He walked to another section of his laboratory where a different project waited. This one was called Thunderhead. Thunderhead was simple in concept and terrible in execution. It was a system that could launch asteroids at enemy planets. Not small rocks, but massive ones, big enough to destroy cities or even entire worlds. The galaxy had banned such weapons centuries ago. They were considered too horrible to use. Sunho had built them anyway. He did not feel good about it. He remembered Yuna's face from the news footage. He remembered her kind eyes and her raised hands. She would have hated these weapons. She would have said there had to be another way. But there was no other way. Sunho knew that now. The galaxy did not respect kindness. The galaxy respected only power. And Thunderhead was power beyond anything the Council could imagine. His assistant, a young woman named Himin, approached him. "The final calibrations are complete. Thunderhead is ready." Sunho nodded slowly. "Let us hope we never have to use it. And if we do?" He looked at the weapon system, its screens glowing with targeting data. "Then we use it, and we live with what we have become." President Hai-Min addressed the planet that night. Her face appeared on every screen, in every home, in every language. She spoke calmly, but her words carried weight that made people stop and listen. "For 80 years, we tried to be good neighbors. We shared our knowledge. We offered our friendship. We asked only to be treated as equals. The galaxy answered with contempt. They killed our people and called it justice. They laugh at our grief and called it politics. She paused, and her eyes hardened. No more. Today, Earth is no longer a collection of nations arguing over borders. Today, we are one people, one purpose, one will. Every factory is now a war factory. Every shipyard is now building weapons. Every man and woman who can serve will serve. This is not a choice. This is survival. Across the planet, people listened. There were no protests. There were no arguments. Everyone had seen the footage of Yuna's death. Everyone knew what the galaxy thought of humanity. Fear and rage had united them in a way that centuries of politics never could. In the 3 months since Yuna died, Earth had produced more warships than it had in the previous 20 years. Underground factories worked around the clock. Scientists who had studied peaceful technologies now designed better weapons. Athletes became soldiers. Teachers became strategists. Everyone found a way to contribute. Ambassador Ji-woo watched Hyman's speech from his small apartment. He was old now, his hair white and his hands shaking. He had spent his life believing in diplomacy. He had spent 40 years trying to make the galaxy accept humanity through patience and good faith. Now he understood that it had all been a waste. He recorded one final message to the Galactic Council. His voice was tired but clear. You killed one of us. We asked for justice. You laughed. Remember that you had a choice. Remember that we gave you a chance to make things right. Remember that you refused. What comes next is on your hands, not ours. He sent the message and closed his eyes. He knew they would not listen. They never listened. But he wanted them to remember, when the fire came, that they could have stopped it. On Helix Prime, the memorial for Yuna grew larger every day. People from many species brought flowers and messages. Some had known her. Most had not. But they had all seen how she died, and something about her courage had touched them. A young alien girl, maybe 10 years old, placed a drawing at the memorial. It showed a human woman with a kind smile helping a sick child. The girl did not know that she had been that child, that Yuna had given her medicine on the day she died. Her mother watched with sad eyes. Why did they kill her mother? The girl asked. Because they were afraid, the mother said. The powerful are always afraid of the kind. Kindness makes people love you, and love is something you cannot control with weapons or laws. What will the humans do now? The mother looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth was preparing something. Everyone could feel it. The silence from humanity was not the silence of defeat. It was the silence of a storm gathering. I do not know, she said. But I think the galaxy is about to learn something it will never forget. In the training facilities of Earth, the Vengeance Fleet prepared. Taiho flew simulation after simulation, learning to fight in ways that broke every rule of galactic warfare. Human tactics were unpredictable, aggressive, and terrifying. Where other species calculated safe distances, humans charged forward. Where others retreated to preserve forces, humans advanced to destroy enemies. The instructors called it total commitment. The volunteers called it fighting like you're already dead. Taiho understood it perfectly. He had watched his sister die with her hands raised in peace. He had learned that peace meant nothing to the galaxy, so he would offer them something else. On the 6th month after Yuna's death, General Yunji received word that the fleet was ready. The weapons were complete. The soldiers were trained. Earth had transformed itself from a peaceful civilization into a weapon aimed at the stars. She sent a single message to President Hyman. We are ready. Hyman read the message and closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, they held no doubt. Begin. Across the planet, ships began to rise. Silent and deadly, they moved into formation above Earth. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. They still thought humans were weak. They still believed that killing Yuna had put humanity in its place. They were about to discover the truth. The quiet was over. The storm had arrived. Admiral Minho stood on the bridge of the Retribution, Earth's largest warship. He was calm, his hands clasped behind his back, his eyes fixed on the stars ahead. Around him, officers worked silently at their stations. No one spoke. No one needed to. They all knew what was about to happen. 6 months had passed since Yuna's death. 6 months of silence, of preparation, of transformation. Now the waiting was over. All fleets report ready, his communications officer said. Minho nodded. Across the galaxy, 12 human fleets waited in the darkness of space, hidden in places the Valans thought were empty. Each fleet had one target, a Valan military installation. The attacks would happen at the same moment, across distances that would take light itself years to cross. The galaxy believed such coordination was impossible. No species had engines fast enough to synchronize strikes across such vast distances. The Cascade Drive changed everything. "Begin countdown," Minho said. On the Vengeance, a smaller strike ship deep in enemy territory, Taiho sat in his cockpit. His squadron of 12 fighters waited behind him, their pilots silent and focused. They had trained for this moment. They had dreamed of it. Some of them had nightmares about it. Taiho felt nothing but cold purpose. His sister's face floated in his mind, not as she had died, but as she had lived. Her smile, her laugh, her endless belief in the goodness of others. He would honor her memory by destroying those who had taken her from him. 30 seconds. The voice of the fleet commander crackled in his ear. Taiho's hands tightened on his controls. Around him, his squadron prepared. These were the best pilots Earth had. Volunteers who had all lost someone to alien cruelty. They called themselves the Ghosts because they planned to haunt the Valans forever. 10 seconds. The stars seemed to hold their breath. Execute. Across the galaxy, human ships erupted from hiding. They burst from empty space like predators leaping from shadows. Their engines blazed with blue fire. Their weapons charged with deadly light. And they struck. The first Velan installation was a military shipyard orbiting a gas giant. 300 warships waited there, being repaired or refueled. The Velans had no warning. One moment, the space around them was empty. The next moment, human ships were everywhere. Minho watched from the Retribution as his fleet tore through the Velan defenses. The enemy ships tried to respond, but they were too slow, too surprised, too unprepared. Human weapons cut through Velan shields like they were paper. Human pilots flew with a recklessness that terrified their enemies. "They're breaking formation," his tactical officer reported. "They're trying to retreat." "Let none escape," Minho said calmly. "The galaxy needs to see what happens when you murder our people." The battle lasted 40 minutes. When it ended, 300 Velan warships were debris floating in space. Not a single human ship was lost. At the same moment, similar scenes played out across the galaxy. 12 installations attacked. 12 victories. The Valans had never experienced anything like it. In a single hour, they lost more ships than they had lost in the previous century. Taiho and his squadron struck a Velan carrier group guarding a supply route. The carriers were massive ships, each carrying hundreds of smaller fighters. Against a normal enemy, they would have been unbeatable. But Taiho was not a normal enemy. He flew his fighter like it was part of his body. He dodged enemy fire by margins so small that his computer screamed warnings at him. He struck at weak points that the Velans did not know they had. And when his squadron was outnumbered 10 to 1, he did not retreat. He attacked harder. "Ghost Leader, you're too deep in their formation," his wing commander warned. "Pull back." "Negative," Taiho replied. I see their command ship. I'm taking it. He pushed his engines to maximum and dove toward the largest carrier. Enemy fighters swarmed around him, but his squadron covered him, sacrificing their positions to clear his path. 2 of his pilots died in those moments, their ships exploding in silent fire. Taiho did not slow down. He could not. Their deaths meant nothing if he failed. He reached the carrier's weak point, a section near the engines where the armor was thin. He fired everything he had, missiles and energy weapons, and even his emergency fuel reserves turned into improvised explosives. The blast tore through the carrier's hull. The great ship shuddered. Then it broke apart. As the debris scattered across space, Taiho pulled his fighter away. His hands were shaking. His breath came in gasps. But his eyes were dry. He had no tears left. Ghost leader to all remaining ghosts, he said. Form up. We're not done. High Speaker Vorath received the reports in his throne room on the Volan homeworld. He read them with growing disbelief. 12 attacks. 12 defeats. Thousands of ships destroyed. All in a single hour. Impossible, he said. Humans cannot do this. They are primitive. They are weak. Apparently not, one of his advisors replied quietly. Vorath's 4 hands clenched into fists. Rage filled his mind. How dare these insects strike at him? How dare they fight back? He had killed that human woman to teach them their place, and instead they had declared war. Send the 3rd Fleet to their homeworld, he ordered. Burn Earth to ash. Let the galaxy see what happens to species that challenge the Dominion. The 3rd Fleet was the pride of the Velan military. 500 of the most powerful warships ever built, commanded by veteran officers who had never known defeat. They jumped toward Sol, toward Earth, toward what Vorath believed would be an easy victory. They were wrong. Earth had been preparing for this moment since the first day of silence. The planet was surrounded by defense platforms that had been built in secret, thousands of them, each carrying enough firepower to destroy a capital ship. Behind them waited the human home fleet, fresh and ready, untouched by the earlier attacks. The Velan 3rd Fleet emerged from their jump and found themselves facing a wall of weapons. Before they could even raise their shields, the first volley struck. The battle lasted 4 hours. It was not really a battle. It was a massacre. Human defense platforms fired in coordinated waves, overwhelming Velan shields with pure volume. Human ships moved in patterns that Velan commanders could not predict. When Velan captains tried to retreat, they found human ships behind them, cutting off escape. Admiral Minho's voice, broadcast on all frequencies, meant for both his own forces and the Velans. You came to burn our home. You came to finish what you started when you killed Yuna. Now learn what Earth does to those who threaten our children. When the battle ended, not a single Velan ship remained. 500 warships, crewed by tens of thousands of soldiers, were gone. Earth lost 37 ships. 37 out of thousands. Vorath received the news in silence. For the first time in 200 years of rule, he felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. The humans had not just offended themselves. They had destroyed his greatest fleet without effort. They had proven that everything he believed about them was wrong. The other council species watched in shock. They had laughed with Vorath when Yuna died. They had dismissed humanity as irrelevant. Now they saw human warships cutting through Velan defenses like fire through dry grass. Now they understood that they had made a terrible mistake. Council Speaker Ilara, leader of a moderate species that had always treated humans with quiet sympathy, contacted Earth secretly. She offered to help negotiate peace. She offered to pressure Vorath to apologize and make amends. President Hyman's response was brief. Negotiations ended when you laughed at our ambassador. There will be no peace until there is justice. And justice is not something you can negotiate. On the bridge of his ship, Taiho watched Earth in the distance. He had helped defend his homeworld. He had destroyed enemies who wanted to burn everything he loved. But he felt no joy. Victory was not enough. It would never be enough. Somewhere in the galaxy, High Speaker Varath still lived. The being who had ordered his sister's death still sat on his throne, still breathed, still ruled. Until that changed, the war would continue. What now? His wing commander asked. Taiho turned his ship toward the stars, toward Velen space, toward the enemy. Now we make them understand, he said. We take everything from them, the way they took everything from us. And when Varath is dead and his empire is ashes, then we stop. Not before. The ghosts followed him into the darkness, their ships cutting through space like blades through silk. The galaxy had drawn first blood when they killed Yuna. Now Earth was drawing second blood, and third, and fourth. And they would not stop until the debt was paid in full. The Galactic Council, once the supreme power that ruled thousands of worlds, was falling apart. Species that had been oppressed by the Velens for centuries saw humanity's war as a chance for freedom. Some joined Earth openly. Others simply stopped supporting the Council. Trade routes collapsed. Alliances broke. Everywhere, the old order crumbled. President Hyman stood before a holographic map of the galaxy. Red zones showed human control. Blue zones showed remaining enemy territory. A year ago, the red had been a tiny dot. Now it covered nearly a quarter of the known galaxy. But victory had come at a cost. Hyman looked older than she had a year ago. More gray in her hair. More lines on her face. She carried the weight of every soldier who had died. Every planet that had burned. Every decision that had cost lives to save other lives. She addressed the galaxy one more time. Her voice was broadcast to every world, every ship, every screen. We did not want this war. When we joined the Galactic Council, we came with open hands and open hearts. We wanted to learn from you. We wanted to share with you. We wanted to grow together toward a better future. You answered our friendship with contempt. You answered our patience with murder. She paused, letting her words sink in. Now you will answer for both. Not because we hate you, not because we want revenge, but because the galaxy must learn that there are consequences, that you cannot kill innocent people and laugh about it, that even the smallest species has the right to exist with dignity. Council Speaker Ilara watched the broadcast from her private chamber. She was one of the few moderate voices left in the council. She had always treated humans with respect, even when others laughed at them. Now she was trying to save what remained of galactic civilization. She contacted Earth secretly one more time. Her message was desperate. I offer you High Speaker Varath. I offer you the soldiers who killed your woman. I offer you full confession of guilt and reparations beyond measure. In return, I ask only that you stop. Please. The galaxy cannot survive much more of this. Hyman read the message in silence. For a moment, just a moment, she considered it. Varath dead. Justice served. The war ended, but she knew it was not enough. If she stopped now, the galaxy would learn that humans could be bought off. That sufficient payment could erase any crime. That would invite future attacks, future murders, future massacres. No. The lesson had to be complete. Her response was simple. Justice was offered once. You refused. Now there is only consequence. Taiho received his orders 3 days later. The Vengeance Fleet would lead the assault on the Velen homeworld. They would be the first to land on enemy soil, the first to breach the palace, the first to face whatever defenses Var had prepared. He gathered his surviving squadmates. Of the original 12 ghosts who had launched from Earth a year ago, only 5 remained. The others had died in battles across the galaxy, their ships exploding in silent fire, their names added to memorial walls. "This is it," Taiho said. "1 year ago, they killed my sister. Tomorrow, we finish what they started. Some of us will not survive. That's acceptable. What matters is that we win. What matters is that Varth answers for what he did." His pilots nodded. They all understood. They had all lost someone. They were all ready to pay any price for victory. The assault on the Vulin homeworld began at dawn, their time. Human ships filled the sky like a dark cloud. Defense platforms fired desperately, but there were too many attackers. Shields fell. Weapons overheated. One by one, the orbital defenses went silent. Admiral Minho commanded the fleet from orbit. He watched the ground assault begin. Thousands of human soldiers dropping from ships in armored pods. They landed around the capital city, surrounding the palace where Varth waited. "The High Speaker is trying to flee," a sensor officer reported. "He's heading for a private ship." "Block him," Minho ordered. "No one leaves that planet until this is over." On the ground, Taiho led his squad through the burning streets. The Volans fought desperately, knowing they were defending their leader, their honor, their survival. But human soldiers moved like water through rock, finding every weakness, exploiting every gap. Taiho did not feel fear. He did not feel anger. He felt only cold purpose, the same purpose that had driven him for a year. He was a weapon now, shaped by grief and hardened by war. He would not stop until his work was done. They reached the palace as the sun rose over the alien sky. The building was ancient, beautiful, covered in carvings that told the history of the Volan Dominion. Taiho did not care about its beauty. He cared only about what was inside. The palace guards fought hard. They were elite soldiers, trained for centuries, equipped with the best weapons their civilization could produce. Against normal enemies, they would have been unbeatable. But Taiho's squad was not normal. They had survived a year of the most brutal warfare the galaxy had ever seen. They had lost friends, brothers, sisters. They had nothing left to fear. The fight through the palace took 3 hours. Taiho lost 2 more squad mates in those halls, their bodies falling in corridors that had never known violence before. He did not stop to mourn. He could not. There would be time for grief later. Now there was only the mission. Finally, he reached the throne room. The great doors had been sealed, but human breaching charges blew them apart. Taiho stepped through the smoke, his weapon raised, his eyes searching. Varth stood before his throne. He was alone. His guards were dead. His empire was falling. He had nowhere to run, but he did not beg. He stood tall, his 4 arms at his sides, his gray face twisted with contempt. "You think you have won," he said. "You think killing me will change anything. You are still insects. Your victory means nothing." Taiho walked toward him slowly. His weapon was aimed at Varth's chest. His finger was on the trigger. One shot would end everything. "You killed my sister," Taiho said. "She was helping sick children when your soldiers grabbed her. She raised her hands in peace. She asked what she had done wrong, and you murdered her for nothing." "She was a spy," Varth said. "She deserved to die. She was a healer. She was kind. She believed that even people like you could be better." Varth laughed. The sound echoed through the empty throne room. "Then she was a fool." Something in Taiho's chest tightened. He could pull the trigger now. He could execute Varth the same way Varth had executed Yuna. Quick, clean, final. But that was not what he wanted. He lowered his weapon. Varth's eyes widened in surprise. "You will not die like my sister," Taiho said. "You will not die helpless and innocent. You wanted to teach humanity a lesson about power. Now I will teach you." He drew a combat blade and stepped forward. "Fight me," Show me the strength of your dominion. Show me why you thought you had the right to murder a woman who had harmed no one." Vorith hesitated. Then, slowly, he drew his own weapon, a ceremonial blade that had hung at his side for 200 years. He had not fought in personal combat since his youth, but his pride would not let him refuse. They circled each other in the throne room. Two figures, alien to each other in every way except one. They both understood that this moment would decide everything. Vara struck first, his forearms giving him speed and reach that should have been overwhelming. But Taiho had trained for this. He had studied Velen fighting styles. He had prepared for this moment for a year. He dodged the first strike, the second, the third. He waited for his opening. When it came, he did not hesitate. His blade found Varith's side, then his arm, then his leg. He did not kill with these wounds. He made Varith feel them. He made Varith understand what it meant to be helpless, to be hurt, to know that death was coming and be unable to stop it. Finally, Varith fell to his knees. His weapons dropped from his hands. His gray blood pooled beneath him. "You are monsters," he gasped. Teho stood over him, blade raised for the final blow. "No," he said. "We are humans. We wanted to be friends. You made us into this. Remember that, in whatever afterlife waits for you. You could have had our friendship. You chose our wrath." The blade fell. The High Speaker's reign ended. Taiho stood alone in the throne room, surrounded by silence. He had done what he came to do. Varith was dead. Justice was served, but he felt nothing. No joy, no relief, no satisfaction. Just emptiness and the weight of everything he had become. Outside, the sounds of battle faded. The Velen homeworld had fallen. The war was not over, but the heart of the enemy was destroyed. Everything else was just cleaning up. Teho walked out of the palace into the alien dawn. He looked up at the sky, where human ships waited in orbit. "It's done," he said into his communicator. "Vorith is dead." Admiral Minho's voice came back, steady and calm. "Well done, Captain. Come home." Home. The word felt strange. Taiho had not felt at home anywhere since Yuna died. He wondered if he ever would again, but he followed orders. He returned to his ship. He left the conquered world behind. The reckoning was complete. Now came the hardest part, figuring out how to live with what they had done. 2 years had passed since the war ended. The galaxy was a different place. The Galactic Council no longer existed. Its great meeting halls stood empty, its laws forgotten, its power scattered like dust in space. In its place, a new assembly had formed, one that did not dismiss the small or punish the weak. Every species had a voice now. Every world had a vote. And above everything hung an unspoken truth. Humanity was watching. Ambassador Jiwoo walked slowly through the new assembly chamber. He was very old now, his hair completely white, his body frail. He needed a cane to walk. But his mind was still sharp, and his eyes still held the wisdom of a life spent trying to understand other beings. He remembered the old council. He remembered standing before them, begging for justice after Yuna's death. He remembered their laughter. He remembered how they had dismissed him like a child making noise. Now those same species looked at humans differently, not with contempt, but with something between respect and fear. They had seen what humanity could do. They had watched as Earth transformed from a dismissed newcomer into the most powerful force in the galaxy. They had learned, too late, that humans were not to be underestimated. A young alien diplomat approached Jiwoo. She was from a species that had been oppressed by the Velens for generations. Now her world was free. "Ambassador," she said respectfully, "may I ask you something?" "Of course, young one. The galaxy studies human history now. We try to understand how such a young civilization could fight like you did. We find the same pattern again and again. Humans do not start wars, but when their loved ones are harmed, they become something else. Something terrible. Jiwoo nodded slowly. Yes, we are strange creatures. We can be kind beyond measure. We can forgive almost anything. But harm our children, harm our families, harm those we love, and we become capable of things that frighten even ourselves. Does that frighten you? Jiwoo was quiet for a moment. Every day, I spent my life believing in peace. I watched my people become warriors. I saw them do things I never thought possible. Some of those things were heroic. Some were harder to accept. Do you regret it? I regret that it was necessary. I regret that the galaxy could not accept us with kindness. But I do not regret that we survived. I do not regret that Yuna's murder was answered. The young diplomat considered his words. We will not make the same mistake again. None of us will. I hope not, Jiwoo said. For everyone's sake. On the neutral world of Helix Prime, where everything had begun, a memorial garden had grown around the spot where Yuna died. Flowers from 100 worlds bloomed there. Messages in 100 languages decorated the walls. People came from across the galaxy to pay their respects. Taiho stood before the memorial, holding the hand of a 10-year-old girl. Her name was Mira, and she had Yuna's eyes. She was Yuna's daughter. When Yuna had died, Mira was only 5 years old, living on Earth with her grandmother. Taiho had not even known his sister had a child. Yuna had kept it private, wanting to protect her daughter from the dangers of her work. When the war ended, Taiho had returned to Earth and found Myra waiting for him. The grandmother had died during the war, not from violence, but from age and grief. Myra had no one left except an uncle she had never met. Taiho had expected to feel nothing. He had become so cold during the war, so focused on killing and surviving, that he thought his heart had turned to stone. But when he looked into Myra's eyes, he saw his sister looking back at him. And something inside him, something he thought was dead, began to feel again. He had adopted Myra. He had retired from military service. He had tried to become the kind of person his sister would have wanted him to be. It was not easy. Some nights, he woke up screaming, reliving battles that would haunt him forever. Some days, he could not speak, could not feel, could only sit in silence and stare at nothing. The war had broken something inside him that might never fully heal. But Myra needed him, and that was enough to keep him going. Now they stood together at Yuna's memorial, surrounded by flowers and silence. "Tell me about her," Myra said. "Tell me about my mother." Taiho knelt beside her, his old wounds aching as he moved. "She was the kindest person I ever knew. She believed in helping others, even when they didn't deserve it. She believed that if you showed people kindness, eventually they would become kind too." Did she really believe that? With all her heart. Myra looked at the memorial, at the carved stone that bore her mother's name. Would she be proud of what happened? The war? This was the question Taiho had asked himself 1,000 times. He had killed countless beings in his sister's name. He had become exactly what she would have hated. A warrior, a killer, a creature of vengeance. She wouldn't be proud of the war, he said finally. She would have hated every moment of it. She would have cried for every life lost on both sides. Then why did you fight? Taiho was quiet for a long moment. Because sometimes the people who believe in peace need others to protect them. Because the galaxy wouldn't listen to kindness. Because if we didn't fight, they would have destroyed everything she loved. He put his hand on Myra's shoulder. Your mother wanted to change the galaxy with kindness. She failed, but maybe she didn't fail completely. Maybe the war taught the galaxy something that kindness alone could not. Maybe now, in this new piece, people will remember what happens when they hurt the innocent. Myra placed flowers at her mother's memorial, small white blossoms that she had grown herself. "I want to be like her," she said. "I want to help people." "Then do it. That would make her happy. Will you help me?" Taiho looked at his niece, this small girl who had his sister's eyes and his sister's heart. He thought about the blood on his hands, the deaths he had caused, the darkness that lived inside him now. "Yes," he said, "I will help you. I will spend the rest of my life helping you become something better than what I became." That evening, Ambassador Ji-woo visited the memorial. He was returning to Earth soon, probably for the last time. His health was failing, and he wanted to die on his homeworld. He found Taiho and Mira sitting beside the flowers, watching the alien sunset paint the sky in colors that did not exist on Earth. "May I join you?" Ji-woo asked. Taiho nodded, and the old diplomat sat beside them with a weary sigh. "I watched your sister die," Ji-woo said quietly. "I was in the council chamber when they laughed at my demands for justice. I have thought about that day every moment since." "So have I," Taiho said. "I used to think I failed her. If I had been a better diplomat, if I had found the right words, maybe the war could have been avoided." "You didn't fail. They failed. They chose to laugh instead of listen." Ji-woo looked up at the sky. "I am an old man. I have seen terrible things and wonderful things. I have watched humanity transform from a hopeful young species into something the galaxy fears. I wonder sometimes if we lost something in that transformation." "We lost my sister," Taiho said. "Yes, and we lost our innocence. Our belief that the galaxy would accept us if we were just good enough." Ji-woo paused. "But perhaps that innocence was always an illusion. Perhaps we simply learned the truth that older species already knew." "What truth?" "That the universe does not reward kindness automatically. That sometimes, to protect the kind, you must be willing to be unkind. That love and wrath are not opposites, but two sides of the same coin." Myra listened to the old man's words. She did not fully understand them yet, but she would someday. Ji-woo looked at her with gentle eyes. "You are Yuna's daughter." "Yes, sir." "She would be proud of you." He glanced at Taiho. "She would be proud of both of you in different ways." "She would have hated what I did," Taiho said. "She would have hated the necessity, but she would have understood why you did it. And she would have loved you anyway. That is what sisters do." The three of them sat in silence as the sun finished setting. Stars began to appear in the alien sky, distant points of light where new civilizations were rising and old ones were changing. The galaxy would never be the same. The Galactic Council was gone. The Velen Dominion was ashes. Humanity was powerful beyond anything the universe had expected. But for Taiho, none of that mattered. What mattered was the small girl beside him, holding his hand, looking up at the stars with eyes full of hope. Yuna had believed in kindness. She had believed that one person could change the universe by simply being good. She had died for that belief. But her daughter was still alive. Her brother was still alive. Her dream of a better galaxy was still possible, even if it had taken a war to create the conditions for it. Taiho stood and lifted Mira into his arms. She was getting too big for this, but he did it anyway. She nestled against his shoulder, tired from the long day. "Let's go home," he said. Ambassador Ji-woo remained at the memorial for a while longer. He had one more thing to do. He spoke to the empty air, to the memory of Yuna, to anyone who might be listening. "We never wanted to be conquerors. We never wanted to be feared. We only wanted to be respected, to be seen as equals. You could have given us that with kindness. Instead, you taught us that the galaxy only respects strength." He stood, leaning heavily on his cane. "Remember that lesson? We learned it from you." The galaxy remembered, and humanity watched. Not with hunger for more war, not with desire for conquest, but with the calm certainty of a species that had learned to protect its own.